Hello, this is Margaret Ajibade, the STEM Positive Disruptor. The reason why we have this platform, or first of all, I want to say this is me as conversation, and we're going to have a special guest called Jame Zaiyouna. And this platform has been set up to educate our audience, raise awareness, change people's perception, and demystify what STEM is all about. That's science, technology, engineering, mathematics. It's to show the diverse roles that we have within the profession, but also to show how our profession is doing positive, bringing positive impact into our world itself. And so this is my special guest. He's currently an electrification account manager, and he's going to talk us through his journey, and we'll just take that from there. So welcome again, Jame.
Happy to be here this morning, this afternoon for you. So yes. Thanks for having me. Yeah,
no problem.
Where would you like me to start? Just kind of on
talk about your journey, your education, if that's related to what you do, or just your journey as a soul. Because again, sometimes the audience that will it's the public basically. So there may be people coming in with different skill set or thinking about, but I don't have the skill set, or I do have the skill set. So just talk us through your journey.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I'll start from the very beginning. So I have a business degree. And I graduated in 2007, and I didn't know where or what I wanted to do. So I did what many young 20-year-olds do, and they go overseas to teach English. I was working at an insurance company, and I just wasn't enjoying kind of the rat race, which was just, processing things for that insurance company. And a friend said, hey, come move to Korea. So I did that for about a year and a half. And then another friend suggested, hey, do you want to do the Trans-Siberian with me in the middle of winter? So I did the Trans-Siberian actually solo from China, Mongolia, Russia through to Europe. And it was this trip that really kind of opened my eyes to where we were headed versus where we were. So when I'm on the train in China, Mongolia, Russia, I see a number of kind of coal-fired plants. Even the train, was powered by coal for at least heating, to my best guess. And then I get to, Scandinavia, Germany, France, and there was this proliferation of solar and wind and renewable energy. And, not knowing what I wanted to do, that kind of created a diversion for me to determine that, I wanted to do something in sustainability, in renewable energy. And this would have been in 2009, so at the height of the Great Recession. So it was really hard to get a job. So I went back. It was hard to get a job, so I went back and did just a post-grad certification at a local college. And that opened my eyes further to what sustainability meant. It wasn't just renewable energy, but it was vertical farming, electric vehicles, green buildings, green design, things of that nature. And that kind of just put me on a path to try to get into supporting businesses that wanted to, quote unquote, go green, be more sustainable, have a reduced ecological footprint. And so I did a number of things. I worked in the property management segment, trying to green buildings from within. So looking at utility bills, looking at, upgrading the buildings, lighting systems, HVAC systems, putting in sensors so, that they dim if there's no occupancy sense and whatnot. And then through that, I ended up working with an organization that took me out to Saskatchewan. Again, work was tough to come across, so there's an opportunity to move from Toronto to Saskatchewan. So anyone who is unaware of where that is, it's the middle of Canada. I want to say the middle of nowhere, but Regina, Saskatchewan is a beautiful, beautiful place, but it's very rural. There's about 1 million people in that province. And from there, I focused on the retail sector, working with a number of large retailers to promote energy efficiency and conservation. Everyone's looking at light bulbs, CFLs, and LEDs. What does it mean? What is a lumen? What is light temperature? And trying to just educate the masses. We had a large a program where we were engaging, 30,000 plus people over the span of 4 or 5 months on just how to buy a light bulb. Because if you go to your local DIY store, you look at the lighting section, and it's just massive. And having been in it for a while, I still get overwhelmed by all the different pieces of technology out there. Mm-hmm. So it really is taking kind of a bite-size bits of information that you can give to the public, and they can digest, and they can make an informed decision on what to do and what to buy. And then from there, my work kind of switched from residential and retail into the commercial space, industrial space, where we're working with larger businesses and helping them on their sustainability journeys, helping them get funding to, push them over the top to purchase, more, Energy Star equipment, or a higher quality equipment that uses less energy, costs a little bit more money, but the utility is there to help support that delta, that incremental cost. And through my work there, it wasn't until I'd say late last year where I made the transition into electric vehicles and electrification, because that to me is where the puck is going. We know that we need to wean ourselves off fossil fuels. How to get there is I won't say is up for debate, but there's a lot of back and forth with folks. Some say, hey, we need to build more nuclear and gas plants. Others are saying no, just more renewable. But I think it's going to be a combination of the both. Mm-hmm. So
that's good. It's quite interesting, because until you traveled, you didn't really think about the environment as such. And just to let you know, I was in Mongolia as well many years ago, but actually it was more to do with then I was more athletic. Well, I don't know. I was in ultra marathons, and I did 100. They had a race there, and that was more to do with conservation of the environment, and we sort of raised money as well. So it's quite interesting that once you went out, you couldn't see. Of course, you're looking for what would make you tick and what would change your way of thinking as well. But it opened your eyes to suggest it. And when you went further into Europe, you saw things in a different light as well. And then going back home, you showcase that, hold on a minute, there were issues there, and it's about getting by it, and you found I guess a space really in which you were able to develop that. And although this is a STEM platform, you're actually coming in from a business perspective. And even though sometimes we say technical people shouldn't have that, it's very important to understand the business side of things as well, because it's okay to be technical, but if you don't know how things run, then yes, I think it means you're always going to be in that bottom realm. You won't have a vision of how you can combine that together. You also mentioned about fossil fuel and or what do we do, and you talked about a combination of different options that we can do. From your perspective, the way you've gone, because I know you're very passionate, and you do put a lot of posts on LinkedIn about climate change or EV electrification, and so you're, because it's your passion, and you want to make a change. And how would you say, from what you've seen over the years that you've worked in the industry, both from the residential as commercial, and in your future, how do you see it moving, and how do you see people buying into it? Because I think it's about getting people to buy into, not look at the expense side, but buying into the reasons behind why we do what we do, why we talk about what we do. Can you please expand on that?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I feel I'd say it wasn't until recently that, more on the energy efficiency side, I shouldn't say we, sometimes society looks at things from an energy efficiency standpoint, but it's being not just conservative, but it's in terms of like, oh, you want me to use less? You just want me to use less? Like, I don't want to have less. And you get into people, the Western mentality of, I don't want to give up what I have. Right? I worked so hard to get X, and you want me to give this up. And that approach, I'd say that's been the approach for a number of years. And it's not been until, the past 2-3 years, to be honest, like COVID has really sparked people's kind of ideas of what's important to them. And so now it's not just, hey, I'm going to do more with less. It's I have emission reduction goal or a decarbonization goal. So you have a lot of businesses that are looking at not just at the return on investment, the ROI, but they're looking at, okay, I'm not going to lie, there is a PR component to this, a marketing component of, hey, if my competitors are all being more sustainable and using less and reducing their footprint, I'm going to be left behind. So you have that component as well. And then you have other leaders that are saying, we don't care what the return on investment is. We know this is the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. Putting in the light bulbs, improving the HVAC, improving the building envelope and insulation of the building. Mm-hmm. It's great if you can put solar panels. That looks great in a photo, but what did you do to the building envelope? And I feel sometimes that we look at the brand new electric vehicle or the brand new solar panels, you want to get a thumbs up, but it's like, did you take the other steps to improve more cost effectively the insulation, the lighting, the plug load, things of that nature, not just these big shiny things that look good in a photo or look good in a corporate social responsibility report. So it's definitely a mixture, and I think that to kind of come back to your point on the technical side, the organizations that I've been a part of in the past have been predominantly engineers. Also flagged my dad is a mechanical engineer, so I was never technically inclined, but over the years you learn enough to be dangerous and understand the nuances for what needs to happen. I find on the technical side, and I'm going to be painting with a very broad brush here, I feel on the technical side, sometimes we get bogged down in the details and the minutia of everything versus I like to take a 30,000 foot perspective and say, okay, are we progressing or not? Is an electric vehicle the perfect solution? No, it's not. But does it move us off of fossil fuels? Yes. Do I think there's going to be, problems in the future? Potentially, but if we keep doing what we're doing and wonder why the world, I don't know if you've seen some maps of western part of the United States, but they're all breaking records in terms of temperatures, and I believe the United Kingdom as well.
Of course, yes, indeed, yeah.
So we can continue to do what we're doing and, try to build a society that's heavily air conditioned, right? But, what are we doing to reduce the emissions, right? Zero emissions, net zero, things of that nature. So yeah, my perspective is incremental improvements, regardless of how perfect it is. We need to move forward. I like to use it's an odd analogy, but sometimes I feel like I'm in the ocean and I'm treading water in the ocean and there's multiple balls floating around me and I just need to move them forward. So I grab the one that's closest, I throw it forward, and I grab the next ball, I throw it forward, as long as I'm trying to corral towards land, towards safety and resiliency. That's that's my approach.
Do you're right, and I think sometimes you're right. Not all engineers, but sometimes we do get bogged down with the details because we do. Hey, we need to make sure we get it all right. But you having a broader view does change things because you're not just seeing one thing, you're seeing the bigger scheme of things and how can we change. And I think you're quite right about saying it's an incremental step. We can't change things overnight because things that are in place now has taken years for it to be in place. And so therefore it's not just about the technical side or the hardware or the tangible stuff, but it's also about the changing of the mindset as well. It's the education of the mindset. You need to change that. And I'm just kind of curious, as an electrification account manager, because I know you're involved in this sort of thing, how do you engage your clients or your customers, or how do you get them to see things different? I know you mentioned what you do is a combination of not just it's the right thing to do and other things. I know you also mentioned about the COVID pricked our conscience. Hold on a minute, I might not be here tomorrow, so I might as well do the right thing. But for how long? Because people have had things like this before. They say, oh, we're going to change, and they go back to their old ways. So based on your current role, How do you engage your clients and keep them motivated? This is the way forward.
Yes. No, this is a good question. And I've had the privilege of my clients are the ones driving a lot of these initiatives.
Okay.
It's the utility sector that's providing incentives and rebates to move the needle forward on improving lighting, HVAC, electric vehicle, and charging infrastructure. But I think you hit the nail on the head here. You can have all the technology in the world. It's the behavioral component that needs to change just as quickly as the technology, but we know behavior does not change as quick as technology. So, you know, I can have all the LEDs in my house. I can have the best HVAC equipment, but if I like the temperature set to 30 degrees in the wintertime to stay toasty warm so I can wear, you know, shorts and a t-shirt, it negates any positive gain, right? Yeah. So I've had the opportunity to work with utilities, and I can come and say, hey, if you're looking at doing any capital projects to install electric vehicles, charging equipment, or HVAC equipment, or whatever, I can give you that little bit of extra money to help kind of make that ROI for your business make sense. And I've noticed in the past, if that ROI was too long, people had no interest to do it. But like I mentioned, this emission reduction, decarbonization, there's this, okay, I'm okay with a 2-year or 5-year return on investment versus I've heard people, oh, if it's not 6 months, then I don't want to touch it. So really it's just engaging the market. And whichever jurisdiction you're in, to let them know that there is funding available, because believe you and me, there are a number of businesses that are looking to save costs, right? What's one thing in our control? You know, we can only do so much to improve revenue, but for every dollar we save on, you know, expenses, that goes right to the bottom line. So what business doesn't pay for water, electricity, or gas? If you can reduce that monthly expenditure, you know, that could go and be plowed back in for other endeavors. I've worked with a number of businesses that, you know, both for-profit and non-profit, and I represent the utility, but I support their customers. So I've kind of had a great opportunity to work with school boards and universities and, you know, large retailers and enterprises, and, you know, small mom and pop nonprofit. And so each person has a different dynamic. Each person has a different spending threshold. So it's just working within their parameters and their needs. Some of the programs that I've supported do a really good job at, you know, breaking down the barriers to participate and making it really easy for them to, you know, make the right decisions. You know, and it's my job to help, you know, handhold them through the process, you know, and help inform them as to why and what, because truly the utility programs can certainly be confusing and cumbersome, and you know, detract from getting people to do the easy thing. You know, I feel like there's some technology out there that, you know, with a click of a button, you can spend a ton of money. You know, Google and Amazon, for example, they make it very, very easy to spend money. You know, the utility sector is improving, but they don't make it super easy to participate. So it's my job to make sure that folks understand what's available to them. More and more utilities and government entities are looking to improve electrification and energy efficiency kind of across the board, whether it's, you know, home improvements or workplace improvements, or transportation improvements. So really, you know, being knowledgeable of what's available to them, or at least highlighting, hey, these are the main, you know, 3 websites I'd go to look at to see what would be available in terms of rebates and incentives in your jurisdiction. And it's very different across the board. So
indeed, and it's knowing what's available is so important, because that gives them an incentive to start thinking in a different way to the norm. I've got to make sure this is correct for me. This leads quite nicely into the final. So can you just very briefly give us 5 or again, or how many, it's up to you, but very, very briefly, what you think is the way forward for us, the next steps to get people to start talking, the industry, the public, the schools, the education system, the government to start talking. So very briefly, things you think what you would like to see change.
Sure. I think it starts again, comes full circle with behavior and education and awareness, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of people see the world as a doom and gloom place. Oh, woe is me. There's nothing I can do. But mm-hmm. I would counter that there are a number of things that individuals and businesses and schools can do. Mm-hmm. The main areas, and I'm just going to focus on kind of decarbonization, but there's a number of things, there's that I won't get into, but like, waste, overconsumption, biodiversity loss, things of that nature. But when I'm looking at kind of what's in front of me, what I've been doing for the past 10 years, the 3 main areas that we can all improve on, and in no particular order, would be improving how we heat and cool our homes. How much gas are we using? Can we switch to an air source heat pump? And before we even do any of that stuff, have we updated the windows, added insulation, put on a sweater, reduce the thermostat a little bit? Like, everyone likes to think that, oh, you need a lot of money to do any kind of change. And there's the very expensive way, the cheaper way, and the no cost way. And, I think it was Jimmy Carter said, put on a sweater if you're cold. You don't necessarily have to, but people don't like to. Anyway, so that's one area to focus: heating and cooling. My wife and children think I'm crazy because in the summertime at night, I go around the house opening every single window, get the free cooling overnight. In the morning, as soon as it starts to watch that temperature daily, minute by minute, hey, the temperature's spiking. All right, we're shutting all the windows, closing all the blinds, putting on just the fan on the house, not the air conditioning and whatnot. So that's a very free and cheap way to go about it. You may drive your partner insane doing that. But my children are getting it. My son's like, hey, you forgot the lights on, or hey, you didn't shut off the power bar. Little things that he's picking up on, and he's only 5. The other one is on transportation. Mm-hmm. So how do you move goods and people? How do you move yourself, right? So I like to try and say, the greenest mile or the greenest kilometer that you can take is the one you use, with human power, by foot, biking or walking. So can you reduce the amount of times you go to the grocery store by car, or to the school, the community center, the park? Can you walk or bike instead? Right? And everyone's got these nice new EVs, which is great, but if you don't have, $60,000 or $70,000, to spend on that, you can buy a bike, right?
Exactly.
There's lots of bikes. And everyone's, oh, you can't do it in the wintertime all over the place. Well, I used to bike in the wintertime in Saskatchewan when it would get really cold. I'm talking minus 45. And I would bike in the wintertime. You just have to layer up, right? There's certain things that you can do. Some people may call me crazy, but it was better than sitting in a cold car and waiting for it to warm up, and the wear and tear on the vehicle, and it increases the maintenance costs because you're doing a short distance. I was actually having a conversation with somebody, and they were talking about, oh, we've had one car because of COVID, we got rid of the second car, but we're looking at getting a second car. Well, maybe we look at an electric fat bike, for example, that you don't really need much energy, and it doesn't cost, $60,000 or $70,000. You can get a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, or you can get a retrofit on your own bike. So really looking at how you move yourself and your family, and then your purchasing decisions, of course. Where am I getting my goods from? Am I buying locally, or am I buying avocados from Peru, for example, right? Can I buy stuff locally? And then the third thing, it just comes down to consumption. really, we need to not be buying as much as we're buying. We need to be aware that everything that we purchase has an impact, and really being more content with less.
Yeah.
You know, there's this huge push that, you know, with Instagram and all the social media, everyone sees somebody with the newest that and the newest this.
I want it too. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right? And I'd love, you know, an electric vehicle, but I don't need one at the moment. So
Yeah.
I like to push decisions out from wanting to needing.
Needing, yeah.
Right? So if and when we need a new vehicle, it will be an electric. Until then, I'm using my car as little as I can, walking and pedaling as much as I can, and then just delaying that purchase until I really need to. And then, you know, the last point, again, we're maybe talking in circles here, but that behavior change is more important than most people think.
Very key.
You know, we can make a conscious effort to do more with less.
Yeah.
You know, and it could be anything, not just transportation or heating and cooling your house, but it could be absolutely anything. What are you buying? Where are you traveling? Things of that nature. When you go out to dinner, or order in, are you getting the styrofoam plates and whatnot? Like all that kind of adds to your ecological footprint. Some may agree or disagree on the impacts, but for me, it's, you know, what can I do to just reduce it, but still enjoy life?
Indeed. Well, thank you, Jamie. So you inspire me. You know, and I think it's so important. I think the key element is people's behavior change. You have to change the mindset, and this is why we have this platform as well. So again, thank you so much for coming on board. Again, thank you. My name is Margaret Ajibode, the STEM Positive Disruptor, and this platform has been set up to educate, raise awareness, change people's perception, demystify what STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics is, to bring people into our world. Jamie's from a business background, but he also learned the technical in order for him to be able to give informed information to his clients. And so it doesn't matter where you start from, you can always learn and you can always evolve. And I think also very importantly is that we are responsible for our climate, for our environment. If we don't do something, then we need to complain. We can't complain. So we all are responsible, and let us all do something as well. So again, thank you so much, Jamie. I really appreciate you coming on board all the way from Canada. And best wishes to your family too. Okay.
Thank you so much, Margaret.
Thank you.
Take care now.